Europe. Quite a job for David Cameron today. I mean, Europe does have one or two problems, like Greek exit from the euro and a flood of migrant people trying to make their way across Europe, across the Mediterranean, across Europe. And he's got to set out a renegotiation plan and persuade them all that they should concentrate on that, as well as all these other things. I wonder whether he'll get a word in edgeways. John Pienaar is our man on the ground in Brussels. Not an easy task, John, this, is it?
No, it's an enormous task, and there's an awful lot of work to be done before we get to whatever the destination turns out to be. Today, here in Brussels, it's an important moment, but it's a long, long way from being a decisive moment. We're going to get David Cameron, when he gets here to the European Council, the sort of summit headquarters in Brussels. He'll be staking out the broad outlines of his position, where he's coming from, for the first time in front of all the other 27 leaders of the European Union. I mean, right now he's at the British residence, the sort of diplomatic residence to the Union, meeting the last members of that 27 face to face before he comes here and gets on with stating out, as I say, the broad outlines. But it won't be negotiations going on here today. And it won't be discussion, especially, of the individual proposals, because there won't be individual proposals. What we're getting from David Cameron today is where he wants to achieve some progress. For example, powers for the British Parliament, among other parliaments, to have a bigger say in what the European Union does, and protecting the City of London and the British market, though it's outside of the Eurozone, and other things of that kind. Migration is going to be very difficult, impossible, I think, frankly, to stop migration from the European Union, but there's talk of making progress on stopping EU migrants cashing in on the British benefit system in quite the way that they're described as doing just at the moment. And that alone is a big, big task.
OK, thanks very much indeed. John will keep an eye on what's happening in Europe, and obviously we'll hear more from him on 5 Live later. Going to get a quick comments, though, on what's going on. One with Richard Reid, founder of Innocent Drinks, who signed an open letter in the Times today saying, hey, we need to stay in the EU. And the other is Robert Oxley, Business of Britain. They want they campaign for negotiations about any deal. Let's see what their take is on the task confronting David Cameron. Richard Reid, first of all, and when you look at the problems that Europe already confronts, it's difficult to imagine many of them taking it too seriously when one member says, we need a new deal. I mean, they've got other things to worry about, haven't they?
Well, I think that's the way the world is, isn't it? There's always things going on, and I'm not trying to minimise any of them. We're starting a process now to take something which is currently good, which is our membership of the EU, and try and turn it into something even better. And I wish the Prime Minister a lot of luck. It's a big job, it's important.
Yeah, what in particular do you think he might achieve?
Well, I don't want to sound like a stuck record, but my position is it's good already. If there was a referendum, I had to decide to stay in or out, I would definitely today be very much staying in. Because it's fantastic for business, it's fantastic for society, it has been a source of economic growth, opportunity for this generation, generations to come. It is absolutely a no-brainer. We must always stay in the EU, but we must take this opportunity to try and get it to be an even stronger relationship where everyone benefits.
Why couldn't we just have a free trade agreement with them?
Well, why wouldn't we want to be absolutely at the heart of the biggest free trade zone in the world with 500 million consumers, which is what the EU is? It makes absolutely no economic logic to say, what we'd like to do is disengage and really annoy you and then start renegotiating free trade agreements we already have via the EU on a one-by-one basis. It just is nonsense. It's going to be massively disruptive and prevent us just getting on with the job at hand, which is to build our economy, create future opportunities. We're in a great position. We are the gateway. We are the only English-speaking nation in the world's largest free trade zone. Everybody wants to come here to do business with Europe. I was talking to an entrepreneur just this morning, a Swiss entrepreneur that's left Switzerland, which is often held out to be the example of what it would be like if we weren't in there. She left Switzerland to move to London to set up her business in London so she could trade with the EU, because it's a better place to do it. We would definitely be taking a step back as a nation if we stood out.
Very powerful. Thank you, Richard. Made the case very effectively in just a couple of minutes. Robert Oxley, Business for Britain. What do you say?
Well, look, I think that is certainly one of the opinions that you hear from businessmen, but business opinion on this issue is divided. And that, frankly, the EU is not a free trade area, it's a customs union. And what we see and what we've seen in what Business for Britain released this week, new economic analysis from respected economists who said there's some serious challenges in the European Union. You're seeing it at the moment with the Greek crisis. And these things are going to continue to go on. The status quo is just not going to exist. Things are going to get worse. And we need to have a new deal to make sure that actually the relationship that we have with the European Union is competitive. And that in a globalized world, that we're not just chaining ourselves to a trading bloc which is increasingly focused on regionalization. So I think, in a global community, we should be wanting to do trade deals across the world. We should be wanting to make sure that the actual political costs that we've had to incur from the European Union are reduced and minimised. The public are very unhappy about issues like political union, about the regulatory burden that comes through, about the powers that have been transferred across. For all those reasons, people feel that there needs to be a new deal. And I think the one thing that we saw in this letter today in the Times is this kind of absurd notion that, by actually not ruling every option off the table, you're somehow putting yourselves outside of the negotiating room. That is absurd. Britain is at the heart of the negotiating table right now. It's one of the largest budget contributors to the EU. It has some of the largest soft power. It has some of the biggest global outreach. And frankly, the powers of Britain as a place to do business, I think, are far more to do with the characteristics of Britain as a liberal democracy, a strong rule of law, strong taxation rules, the kind of things which make Britain a great place to do business, no matter what. So
the central point that Richard was making is that business, it absolutely relies on this free trade. You come out of the market, you've got to renegotiate.
That's
everything.
Absurd that you would somehow stop trading with the European Union.
Well, you have to.
It's not saying you wouldn't stop trading, but you're just going to have to spend years in negotiations rather than just getting on with business. All you want as an entrepreneur, all you want as a businessman, is just to be able to get on with things. We set up Innocent from a market stall 15 years ago. It now trades in 17 countries across Europe. We sell 50% of our smoothies in Europe, but 80% of the people we employ in the UK. So we're selling smoothies to Europe and creating jobs here at home. That is the benefit of being a UK-based business that can trade absolutely without any hindrance with the whole of the EU.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we have plenty of businesses who talk about the hindrances that they get. We've been talking about completing the single market for many times, but one of our chairs can't even sell in France because of the rules put up there. And actually, let's be honest about this, that we need to see a place where the status quo is not going to remain. It's easy to stick our heads in the sand and pretend that everything is going to continue the way it is, but with the need for Eurozone integration, with the way that things are going there, Britain needs certain protections to make sure that its single market status is protected.
We're going to have to return to this on another day, I think, gentlemen, but it's been really good to hear from you. That was Robert Oxley, and before you heard from Richard Reid. And in a way, that question about the impact on the economy of leaving Europe will be a central factor as we move towards a vote on our future in or out of Europe.